Okay, perfect. Finally.
Good. The suspense was killing me.
I know. I know.
Is it gonna happen?
Both of them are out. Plus, Jeff is out. Awesome.
Man alive. Okay, I'm ready to go home though.
Okay, wait, don't forget. Thank you. I'm ready. All right, guys, welcome back to Mentorship Monday. And today we're going to go over how high achievers are able to double their revenue by connecting mind, body, and business. So I have here Dr. Reggie Lewis. Hey. And I have here Leo Bain.
That word?
And I would love both of you to do an introduction. Leo, if you want to start, we'd love
Sure,
to learn
sure.
about you.
So, uh, I'm in the holistic nutrition field. I've been working in this field for 20 years. Um, Most of it's been trial and error and finding what works and what doesn't, and concluding that there's no better way to know what the truth is than pure experience. So, I always try to approach things with, you know, um, having the experience to know whether this is something that's going to work long term. Um, and yeah. I mean, it's been a journey for sure, 20 years, but here we are.
Love that.
Mm.
Great. I'm Dr. Reggie. I'm a business consultant. I've been in the field for over 25 years. I help companies grow. I help them out whether they're looking to start up, optimize, or even generate additional revenue, or as far as a profitability standpoint for sustainability. Now that's what I do. Now who I am, I'm a vegan a vegan lifestyle expert. It's one of those things where I had to learn the importance of really taking care of my body, my mind, and my spirit in order to be able to maximize my performance as it relates to business and not just for myself, but my clients as well.
I love that. So, Leo, you said that a lot of your successes come from trial and error. And I just want to touch a little bit on that because I feel like that's how it is in business. Like, you think that everybody who's successful already has things figured out. And me and you were talking about that. But at the end of the day, it's a never ending process. And sometimes you ask yourself, am I doing this right or am I going insane?
Hmm.
Or, when you get to the top, do things like this continue happening? But as you get to know other successful people in different industries, and you even said it, you're friends with some really high achievers and they still go through struggles.
Hmm.
Oh, absolutely. Being in business, it's one of those things where ambition is a blessing and a curse. Success is relative. And the more you attain, it's like you always have another goal. There's always a next level to your next level. So it's one of those things, is really having a balance and being very clear and intentional about the steps that you take with regards to growing your business, but also making sure that you're taking care of yourself. When you're able to really have that mental clarity, it helps you to perform at a much higher level, right? And how do you get to that place of mental clarity? You have to take care of your body. You deal with the brain fog, you deal with the things that you're eating and how it has an impact on your overall health and the mindset as far as that's concerned. So it's one of those things, you can't have one without the other. And even if you are a high achieving individual and you're attaining so much as far as wealth is concerned from a financial standpoint, but your health is wealth also. What good is attaining all that, all of the material things if you're not going to be around long enough to enjoy it?
Right. And I think that most successful people that get to that point don't take care of themselves. They have one, but I think true success is being able to have it all. And many few people get to that level, right?
Everything is about a balance. And even as far as, you're never going to have that equal scale as far as
Right.
it's concerned,
Right.
right? So just being able to have a system that works, that makes sense, but making sure that you're looking at everything from a holistic standpoint. And I think when we're looking at the holistic aspect of things, I think that's where Leo comes in to kind of talk a little bit more about that aspect of it, because I know that's your area of specialty, but you can't have one without the other. You have to approach every aspect of your life from a holistic standpoint with some level of balance.
Right.
Yeah, it's and the brain. We all want brain power. That's what's going to accomplish our goals in life. And one thing I teach people is no, I'm not a neurosurgeon or anything like that, but I've studied quite a bit on, you know, the different organs of the body, including the brain, from a very basic level that I could understand. And one thing I learned was, when you're really chasing after goals, when you're trying to be a high achiever, you have a lot of demands. You have a lot of energy that's being expended from your brain, from your body. And so if you're not keeping up with those demands, you're going to burn quick,
Oh
and
yeah.
then you're never going to be able to reach those. So I like to also educate people on how the brain works from a stress level too. So when we're stressed, stress creates heat in our bodies and especially in our brain. And there's one thing that people don't know about, but that is, to de-stress yourself, it actually requires carbohydrates. And it's why we intuitively seek those things when we're stressed. Now we seek the wrong ones, right? Cookies, cake, soda. But if you seek the right carbs, the clean ones, that has an effect of cooling the brain and body down, because the brain needs glucose to burn for fuel. It's the optimal way. Yes, you can burn fatty acid, but it's not optimal. Um, and a lot of people also don't realize they're on adrenaline many times when they think it's a food high, or it's like they're burning keto or something like that. Normally, it's it's adrenaline that they're feeling is why their brain is working well. Um, so I tried to get people off of running on adrenaline and running on clean foods so that they don't get burned out, because it's a matter of time until you feel those effects down the road.
Oh yeah.
So generally that's the way I approach it is just educating them on how the brain works from that regard and stress, and then how to mitigate that, because there's no way to avoid stress completely. It's just about managing it basically, and still performing, even under stress and under high stress, which you can do. But um, most people, I think, wrongfully assume or know what's really going on. So
Oh yeah, that's very true. And I can attest from that. I burnt out 2 years, almost 2 years ago. And it took me a while to recover because I wasn't taking care of my body. You think you're so young and you can afford to
mm-hmm.
skip the meals, you can
Yep.
afford to eat bad, you can afford to eat anything that you want, but then you don't realize that one day or the other it's going to hit you. And
And
it's,
it's especially tougher for women because 50% of your hormones, so women's hormones, are produced in their adrenal glands.
hmm
Men, it's only 10. We produce most of our hormones from our gosh, the not the prostate. What am I thinking of? The testicles, the testes. That produces most of our hormones. But women, it's the adrenals. So when you're stressed, the first organ to respond is your adrenal glands. So it's why it's tougher for women to handle more stress from that longer term without burning out sooner.
oh, for
Um,
sure,
and
for
you
sure.
different kind of stresses, right? So it's definitely more of a challenge for you guys. So when you focusing on your adrenal glands is key to maintaining, not being burnt out, basically.
And I
So
agree with that. In this world, especially nowadays, people try to make it seem like men and women are the same and we function the same, but it's just
yeah,
not true.
no.
We require more rest and we require de-stressing
And
a lot more.
it's important to really be able to look at it from a mindfulness standpoint. We hear that so often, but the key thing is when you're very intentional about how you're living your life. So let's say, for example, in terms of knowing when you're hitting those stress points, or knowing
Mhm.
when your body's not feeling right, when you approach it from a mindful standpoint, in terms of the things that I'm eating, how is it impacting me, right? And then when you look at it in terms of from a business perspective, being mindful of how you're living, when am I hitting those stressful points, right?
Right.
Having those trigger points, those indicators. So when you need to course correct.
Mhm.
And as you mentioned, in the sense that our body just naturally craves the carbs when we're hitting those stressful points in our lives, right? So now being able to understand I am stressed out, or I am overworked, or I am approaching a certain point, but being able to be mindful about it in the way that we're living, but even mindful in the way that we're eating. So if we know that carbohydrates, that's our default go to, right? So great, you can have it, but what are some of those choices that you can make that would not be counterproductive to
Mhm.
the overall health and wellness of
Yeah.
the direction that you're taking as far as that's
Yeah,
concerned?
yeah. And that's why it's so good to have a nutritionist or a coach because you don't need it when things are going wrong. You need it while things are still right. Because I wish I would have taken care of my body and not been
Mm.
through the burnout. I wish I would have taken care of my body and not gotten sick. Because not only did I burn out from business, but I was sick. I physically got sick. I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease that almost completely tore my life apart. And it's because I wasn't taking care of myself mentally, physically. I wasn't putting the right foods in my body. And I didn't understand that you can't just be all about work. You can't just work 18 hours a day and eating one time a day, right? Or eat, and the one time that you do eat, it's some junk that's artificially processed. So I think that's so important, and making sure you understand those triggers before they even come. Because now I understand from going from that, it's like, hey, like I need a rest or I need a day off from work. Because us as entrepreneurs, we're very extremist.
And it's okay to disconnect. And it's
Mhm.
okay to understand that for, some days, because when you're in that entrepreneurial space, you feel that you're always supposed to be going.
Yeah.
It's like
Yes.
there isn't an end or
Right.
a beginning or a beginning or an end. And, holidays
Yeah.
really don't matter. People say, oh, it's a 3-day weekend.
Hmm.
But to you as a business owner, you think like, what is that? I still have work to do.
Yeah.
But just going back to the point of being very intentional about how we're living, being very mindful about how we're living, that if you wake up today and you're exhausted, it's okay to say, you know what? I'm taking a break today, or I'm taking a break the first half of the day. And what I've realized what worked really well for me is I used to feel from the moment, I'm very big in terms of meditation and being able to ease into my day, prayer, meditation to really keep that balance. If I get up and I'm rushing, I could automatically stop. And when my day is off kilter, wait 1 second, what did I do? I was rushing. I didn't have an opportunity to be those still moments. I didn't have an opportunity to meditate, to really ease into my day. But then something that I realized was that I don't have to do it all in one day. And I realized that time blocking has
Hmm.
worked wonders for me.
Of time
I can
blocking.
get so much done in 1 hour than I would in trying to struggle to get something done in 4 hours. One uninterrupted hour,
Yeah.
being very intentional and blocking that moment, blocking that time
Focus.
space out. So it's really important in understand having an awareness of self. What works for you? What won't work for you? Some people are much better at working early in the morning. Some people are better
Hmm.
working late at night,
Right.
and it's okay.
It's good. Yeah.
There is no in terms of a manual in terms of when you need to work, when you need to get it done. As an entrepreneur, you set your time, you prioritize, you understand not just the work, but prioritize your health.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that goes back to experience. You only know those things until you experience, you know, the extremes, or, working too much, working too little, or, not taking care of yourself, taking care of yourself. So then, okay, this works for me, this doesn't. So I'm always, because for a while I'm big on reading. I love to read. Obviously, I love learning, and there'll be many times, learning something new, it'd be like, oh, let me just read more about it and not take the action, and that of course doesn't work, right? But you convince yourself, I don't have to do the, but man, nothing like diving into the experience. You will learn 20 times faster than just reading a book will ever do, ever.
I
And
love that.
sometimes the book is just, that's what we call a textbook. It's not, it's a guide, right? It just gives you a little start. But I think we get hung up on it has to be this way. But experience is messy, you know,
Yeah.
it, and that's where you really find yourself, and there's nothing that can take that away from you, you know.
Yeah.
So it just goes back to kind of what you're saying. People have to find that, just dive in and do it. Fail. The faster you fail, the faster you're going to succeed, because you're going to learn what works and what doesn't, instead of just, well, let me not make a mistake. Let me just, okay, I want to do it right the first time. No way.
No,
No,
you
just,
can't have all the answers.
yeah,
No.
just screw up. Just do it like, and so whether that's diet, whether that's, your business, the best way to learn is screwing up, and succeeding, because then you see, okay, that worked. Let's keep doing that. So.
What
Yeah.
I've found that has been critical in being in business for so long and also working with other business owners, it's so important to have a hobby.
Oh yeah.
I didn't realize the importance of having a hobby. In one of those things where we can get so lost in our work, so lost in when you're results driven and doing so much for your clients and constantly growing and having setting those goals and accomplishing those goals and getting to your next level, only to realize once you think this was the pivotal point, there's another level to that,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And just being able to disconnect with a hobby. Like my brother, he's a serial entrepreneur. I mean, when I say this guy works like nobody's business, but I envy him so much. He's really into the RC cars.
Hmm.
So he, I mean, he could work like crazy, but when he disconnects, he gets lost into his RC cars. He goes racing and he belongs to this community. And I don't care what's going on around him. You see this joy that he gets from it, you know? And so it's made me realize that, hey, I need, I love to travel, but yeah, but what am I doing when I'm not
That's
traveling, right?
me.
So my thing has been like, okay, fine. So I'm on this journey in terms of just trying out different things. I'm going to find a new hobby. And so just trying out. So my next up is pickleball.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm like, I'm just trying different things and seeing what I'll fall in love with, what I'll enjoy. And hobbies can be for the moment or whatever the case is,
Hmm.
but it's having something other than work that you can get lost in, that you can immerse yourself in, and something other than work that you can talk about.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
because when you're around other business owners that
Oh,
play
yeah.
pickleball, now you have a shared community, right? And you have those interests, but you're also able to disconnect. And I didn't realize the value of it until I see how my brother just gets so lost in it. And I'm like,
Relaxing, being
yeah,
in the present moment.
Hmm.
he travels, he goes to the conferences, he goes to the different races, and he, yeah, I'm disconnected, and that's it. And I think it's such a remarkable thing that it's so important as business owners that we find that balance and whatever that may
Yeah.
be,
Yeah.
and just being able to kind of disconnect and
Yeah, and
to
sometimes
rejuvenate.
it's even hard to disconnect when you're disconnecting, quote unquote, because you could be on vacation and still be on work mode because you're thinking, what if I miss that client call, or is everybody in my team doing what they're supposed to do, or whatever you're thinking about at night. I went through that for so long that I would go on all these vacations, but I never rested.
Hmm.
I never shut my mind off. And now, like doing business on your phone, you're always on your phone. So when do you even have that time to disconnect?
And what I've realized is being able to disconnect. There's so much power in being able to recalibrate.
Yes.
I come up with the best ideas when I've been able to disconnect.
Right.
So now I'm very intentional about how I start my days, right? And on Fridays, after a certain point, before there was a time when I would, over the weekend, I'm checking my phone. When I disconnect on a Friday midday, I'm not looking at anything work related at all. It took a while for me to get there.
Yeah.
It's
It
not
took me,
Yeah. It's
easy.
not easy.
it's
Yeah.
very hard.
Hmm.
But then when I realized that I had to learn to work smarter and not harder.
Hmm.
So putting in, 60 hours a week and still getting the same outcome as
Yeah.
working
You're more
30 hours a
efficient.
week, being
Efficiency.
more efficient. Exactly. Because when I'm burnt out, I'm not good. I'm not any good to myself or my clients.
You can't work.
It's no. And it took a while for me to get that. I would feel so guilty. Like I
Yes.
should be working. There's
Yes.
something else that I should be doing. Because as a business owner, there's always work to be
Mhm.
done.
Always. Yeah.
Mhm.
Always work to be done. So just being able to say, whoa, wait 1 second. I don't have to look at my phone. I don't have to look at I can keep my laptop
This
closed for
is
the
so
weekend.
weird.
It's
It,
weird. Yeah.
trust me,
Yeah. It
and I'm
is.
still, it's one of those things, I'm still kind of in that space. But when
Yeah.
I'm able to do it, I come back with such fresh perspectives.
Always. Yeah.
It's just unbelievable.
Hmm.
So just being able to constantly be aware
You know,
of where we are and what we
something
want.
that worked really great for me, and I don't know, I think we all have iPhones. So I set my iPhone to this gray screen. So I just click the power button and it goes gray. So that helps me remind me like it's time to not disconnect. Like this is only for emergencies. So I have to use that sometimes to completely disengage from work. But yeah, it's completely hard because a lot of times as entrepreneurs, we're so immersed in our work that work is life.
It
And
is.
that's all we know. And disconnecting for that, you feel guilty, you feel stressed.
Yeah. Especially if you're passionate, particularly with most of us are, then that's where it's hard because you really love what you do.
Right.
So why would I stop doing that if I love it? So you get addicted to the passion itself, right? And forget, okay, well, you can still burn yourself out, you
Yes.
know. 'Cause I actually day trade on the side as well. I do some day trading in the futures market that is extremely difficult and demanding on the mind. And I will find myself on Saturday night sometimes if I'm not going out. I'll stare at the charts. I'll just be out there doing my thing, and I'm like, okay, listen, my poor dog's here. He needs to play. It's like wake up, right? I got to remind myself even though I love it and it's fine, it's good, but it can become a problem, and you're trying to force things there that aren't going to happen. So you got to just
Yeah.
taking a break. You actually move forward faster when
That is so true.
yeah. So
Going slower is
going
the
slower,
fast
faster.
route.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely true. Have you guys ever read the book Buy Back Your Time?
No.
Super good. So it talks about the time blocking, and it talks about how the most successful entrepreneurs and business owners buy back their time. That's their only goal. So outsourcing as much as you can and focusing on the big tasks so you don't burn out and you end up
Right.
scaling. And I think that's something that completely changed my aspect of things, because before, with my business, I knew how to do every single position and I thought I would get the most out of that. So that's what I did. I did everything and I thought nobody could do it as good as me.
Hmm.
And then you end up burning out
Yeah.
It-
and you end up more busy than being productive because your time is valuable.
It's
And
true.
you got to calculate, okay, how much is my time worth every single hour? You have a cost per hour.
Yeah.
That is so
And
true.
is the work that I'm doing valuable enough, or can I hire somebody, even if it's, cooking or cleaning, to do this so I can relax and focus on my biggest
Yeah. I
task?
I tell especially if people have enough money to afford personal chefs. I tell them if that's the first thing you need, because if that makes it easier for you to be compliant to, a specific diet or certain foods you want to eat, do it because, you're not going to spend the time in the kitchen to do all this, and you're going to need to do it.
Yeah.
There's no choice, right? You need to eat. You need to eat healthy if you want to survive long enough. So, the people I work with, I always tell them if you have the money, get a chef, get a personal chef, and you can customize exactly what you want. And that way, you don't even have to have the head. You don't have to think about that stuff, and your headspace can be where it needs to be. You know.
100%.
So until unless somebody can get up at 5 a.m. and they can be very efficient with meal planning and all of that, fine. That's something I have to do right now, which is fine. But I've been doing it 20 years, so I'm like, it's second nature. But if somebody's new and they're willing to get healthy, but they just can't find the time, but you have to find the other solution is you got to pay. You got to pay somebody then to do it for you. There's no other choice. You either got to find the time to do it or you got to pay somebody.
And it's an investment. It's an investment back in yourself, because you say, okay, I can hire, or get somebody to make me a meal for, I don't know, 25, $30. That I'm actually saving money by doing that,
100%.
because now I can focus on my larger tasks that are going to make me three times that
That's
amount
right.
in that 1 hour or
And
3 hours
That's right.
that I would have
Yep.
spent cooking.
That's right.
it's true too. It's definitely being able to, as far as the meal planning part of it, but also from a business perspective, understanding those areas that you're not so proficient in.
Hmm.
Okay. And being able to know when to outsource,
Yeah.
when to trust enough to let it go. For example, for me, I'm super analytical, and having to get out of that analysis paralysis state of mind, but realizing that when it comes down to, in terms of, because I'm so detail oriented, technology is not for me to do. That's something that I outsource. When it comes to social media, if I'm writing one caption, I will literally just sit there and it will take me an hour just to write a sentence, and realizing that I can actually be so much more efficient by outsourcing that.
Yeah.
So realizing, it's funny, I have like my business besties, and when there are certain things that they know, Reggie, leave that alone.
Hmm.
Nope, well, let's outsource that and leave it alone. So that way I'm now able to focus on the things that I enjoy doing, right? That I can maximize, that I'm far more efficient in, right? And save time. So if I'm spending 3 hours trying to write, put up two posts, I could spend 3 hours doing something that's on a bigger scale to maximize
Yeah.
opportunities within the business, right? So just being able to have that balance. Another thing that we haven't touched on, that I've realized in terms of the business space, being very efficient in how we grow and how we, really move forward, is being selective with the right client fit. Alignment is so key.
That is so
Every
true.
client isn't your client. And
100%.
just being able to, the moment I realized that. So when I talked about, there was a time when I would work 60 hours a week, I'm missing events and just constantly in front of my computer or on the phone and things of that source. And then realizing, wait 1 second, let's reassess my client acquisition. Let's reassess in terms of the selection process and the criteria, because not every client is a good fit. And the moment I was able to do that, I was able to really save so much on my time.
Hmm.
I was able to maximize my opportunities, right? But also able to be more efficient in the time space.
Yeah.
So when you have that, because some clients, they really have no idea of what boundaries may be.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And
Oh yeah.
sometimes when your inkling tells you the one client that should not have been a client,
Hmm.
they become your biggest headache.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
That could have been the client that probably paid the least, but they're costing you the most.
It's usually the clients
So
Isn't that
that
funny
know.
how
when
that
I
works out? Funny how it works out.
when I
Yeah,
realized,
right.
when I got to the point of understanding that all money isn't good money,
Yeah.
and being very intentional about the steps that I was taking, understanding alignment, right?
Yeah.
There is such a thing as client alignment as
Oh
well
yeah.
in everything that we do. So just kind of just looking at it from a full perspective, and how, because for me it was important to be able to, how can I maximize my impact for my clients, but how can I also maximize and create a quality of life where I'm able to enjoy what I do, but
Yeah.
also be able to offer the best that I can, and not necessarily being in spaces where there weren't those boundaries. So that was another key thing,
That's huge.
understanding that being very selective about, the client
Yeah,
selection.
that's excellent because that was the process that took me a while to get to as well. But then I realized I only have so much mental capital that I can give to somebody if I'm coaching or consulting. I want my all to go into them because for me it's about not about volume, it's quality,
Hmm.
and I want to stick with somebody and work with somebody until they get what they want.
Right.
That's why they paid me.
Hmm.
I don't want I don't want them to fail. I don't want me to feel like a failure in this interaction here. And so I want to stick with them as long as necessary until they achieve. And I realized, well, if I do that, I can't do 6, 7, 8, 10 people a day with everything else in my life. I have to be very selective. Is this person, a good fit, and will they commit too? Because if they're not going to commit, then they're wasting their money, their time, and mine,
And are they
right?
coachable?
And they're coachable.
Yeah.
That's you, of
Yeah.
course. That's why you do, the beginning process. So that was that was really instrumental in redirecting my coaching and my consultation because after that it was so clear when I was talking to somebody at first. I was like, I would know right away, because before when I wasn't aware of it, I would just, oh yeah, okay, let's just, right. And it'd be weeks down the road, and I'd be like, oh my God, this person, I don't know if they're going to be able to do this. And I wasn't trying to be, negative, but it was being realistic because there were certain things they just would not do, right. So um, that ended up saving a whole lot of time for myself. But of course, the clients started getting results much more. At least I felt that way because it was, higher probability of these people, attaining their end objective instead of
Absolutely.
it just, hoping they do it because they're some people. I think it's they like to use coaches as a crutch, maybe that they'll save them, so to speak, and instead of putting in the time, energy, and work that they have to do, because we're just, I always approach it as I'm just a guide. I'm going to show
Facilitator.
you,
Right.
yeah, exactly,
That is so true.
yeah,
And
Yeah.
just being very clear in terms of who do you serve and who would be the ideal client for what it is the service or products that you provide, right? So it's very clear. So once you have that criteria, that avatar or your selection criteria, so who would be the ideal person that would be able to benefit most from the services that I provide. And as coaches and consultants, right? The work that we do is only as great as the willingness and the ability of the clients to actually carry out what we're guiding them on as far as what we're facilitating through that process. So being very clear, so if a potential client doesn't fit certain criteria, you know that they need to be at that point where they have the right mindset to really be able to approach or adopt the way of living or the holistic approach that you're teaching them, right? And are they disciplined enough? Are they willing
right.
to become
Right.
disciplined
And
enough,
we
right?
talked about that
Okay.
before the show. I was
Exactly.
like, I was like, there was one lady I worked with that we didn't even talk about food for the first couple calls or diet, which is where I really shine here. But I had to give her the proper expectations going into this, because she was all over the place with what she wanted and what she was expecting. And it's not about things ever being impossible. It's just being realistic. People think they can solve a chronic health condition in 30 days when it took them 10 years for it to manifest.
Right.
Right. So I always start with that, and they're like, wow, okay, just that alone makes them realize, okay, this is going to be a process and some time, and you're not in charge of how long it's going to take necessarily. It's always up to your body and mind. Um, so and I mean, it does. I mean, it does matter how committed you are, right, and what you do. But ultimately, the time is the time that you know you're going to be successful or your body's going to turn around.
Yeah.
Right. So that is something I always start with any call is always the mindset and the framework. Where are they starting from? What are they expecting here? What do they want? And then setting the record straight before we even begin, so they're not disappointed when they're not flying after 30 days. So because some people just get that way. But,
Sure.
we
Sure.
all do. I've done it myself, but again, experience teaches. It's not how it really works.
Yeah, I don't think that's how it works in anything. True
Right.
success doesn't come easy. It takes time, and it's the little steps that matter. It's taking baby steps and
Yeah.
making slow progress.
Yeah, they
Slow
forget
always
that they don't do the baby steps. They
the
think they
baby
gotta
steps.
make the big leaps. Like, okay, here's where I am. Here's my objective. It's so far away. Well, let me just skip everything in the middle and go right to the objective and make it happen in 30 days. No,
Right.
it's the little things that accumulate. Atomic Habits, good book, right?
That's a good book.
Just that life changing. Right? Just little things, 1% each day.
I love that.
You never think so that it makes a difference, but it does.
It does. And I always ask myself, how can I become 1% better today? And that always makes me see, okay, where am I at right now? And where do I want to be? And what can I do today to get to that next level? Because life isn't a linear life. We're like a roller coaster, it has its ups and downs. And some days you won't be 100%.
Yeah.
But at least you took that little step to get there the next day, right? To get you back on track. And I think really that's what matters because
That's a good
things
point.
happen.
How do you get back on track? What would be your advice for somebody? Because this happens. This is a big one, right? Like we all have setbacks. We all fall backwards
Yeah.
all the time. So what is your process for getting back on track, or what do you tell your clients?
Um,
Yours.
for me, what's important, as I mentioned before, I start every day with prayer and meditation.
I love that.
And whenever my day is off kilter, I can literally stop and trace back to what it is.
Love that.
And so I'm very protective of my mornings, of how I start the day, very protective of the calls that I even take in the mornings.
Mm,
Okay. So if I'm feeling a particular way, I can stop, assess, okay, retrace, and then to identify, why am I feeling this way? Okay. And then once I'm able to identify and process that, then I'm able to course correct. And sometimes it may just mean I just need to take a breather,
mm.
or sometimes I just need to take a step back and just get lost in something totally different. Just enjoy the day, embrace whatever the day brings in terms of outside of work. But I can always tell in terms of whatever I'm experiencing in that moment, I'm always able to trace it because I've gotten so intentional about the way that I live and what I do. And especially in terms of the calls, I'm that go to person for everything. So I don't care what it is, problem solving, whatever the case may be. And what I realize is that because I get so into that, I'm so driven by the solutions or the results or fixing the problem, getting into the fix it, I've enabled the people around me to not really think about fixing it because Reggie's going to fix it
Mm.
or Reggie's going to figure it out. So in the morning, I won't even take those calls. So in terms of if it's not a happy go lucky, the joke of the day or whatever the case is, I'm not even entertaining that. So if it's anything that requires a problem
Right.
solving, what are some of the solutions that you've come up with? So just being able to redirect those that are around me, but also being very mindful of when I find myself in a particular state, not necessarily feeling my best or optimal.
Mhm.
Okay, what's going on? And I'm typically able to trace it. And from
Okay,
there, I'm able
self
to course.
reflect. Yeah, you're aware.
Self
And then
reflection
you
is
ask yourself
very,
questions, and then you
it's
retrace.
very,
Okay, yeah,
very important
yeah.
to be able
So
to do so because sometimes we get so lost in what we're doing
for
and we
sure.
can't find the source.
Yep,
We
Yeah.
can't
for
find the
sure.
source, and then it snowballs into something so much greater. And we
Mhm.
feel that we're drowning in an ocean, but if we would just stand up, we're just in a puddle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
It's not
true.
as bad
That's
as we
yeah,
thought,
excellent.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
just from that standpoint.
I love that. That's good. That's
yeah. It's,
advanced. I mean, most people aren't there, but that's very mindful. And, I think we have setbacks, things happen, tragedies, life happens, new things spring on. And you can't expect yourself to be 100% or do things on a linear level, like I was saying. So, for example, I've been traveling a lot the last month, week after week. And for me, my nutrition, my health, and my mindset is so important. I have my routine, but that doesn't mean I'm going to be able to have that routine every single day or it's always going to be the same. Because when you're traveling nonstop, it's almost impossible. You can't just eat at home. You can't just go to the gym every day. You might be, doing things all day and then you're exhausted. So you have to take care of your body a different way. But in those instances, remembering, okay, why did I start this and how can I go back and reset from zero?
So your why basically.
Yeah,
That's
going
the
back
why.
to my why, and I always tell myself, I mean, I was overweight. I was diagnosed with autoimmune disease. I was sick my entire life. They told me that I would never be able to have, a normal life. So for me to completely change that, that's my why. I'm never gonna go back
Mhm.
to where I was, and I've come too far to be lazy and
Excellent. Yeah.
not pick up where I left off.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah,
my biggest
that's it,
why.
and that's a good point because it's a lot of times if I tell people if you can just get to a place where you'll never want to go back to where you were where you are now, then it's smooth sailing. I mean, yeah, you still have your things, but you're at that place of having the strength to know what you need to do every day, and even if you mess up, you just go right back to it. You're not going to
Right.
completely, you know, fall off. So it's getting a taste of the so-called good life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, but that's so hard to see when they're not in that when you're in that dark place. You're just like, I don't know if I can get out, I don't know what that looks like, all these things, and you just go back, well, I'm already here, I might as well just keep staying here. But
Right.
when you finally get out of that and you see, oh my god, look at how I look, I feel, look at my life now, no way can I screw up and go back to that crap. So
Right.
it's easy then, it becomes easier, I should say.
And accountability is really key, is having people around you that are cheering you on,
100%.
Yeah.
having people around you that understand your journey and understanding your goals, right? And understanding that life isn't perfect. You're going to have those moments where you're going to fall, and it's okay. Remembering to be kind to yourself.
Oh, that's
And it's
huge.
okay not to be okay in those moments,
Yeah.
but just making sure that you have people around you where you can say, hey, I'm not okay today. And those that know you the best, they can, have those conversations with you and go through that process with you, or know when to say, hey, let's disconnect, let's go grab a bite, or whatever that case may be. But I think it's so important that we're kind to ourselves
Yeah.
and know that you're
Yeah.
going to have those moments that you're not okay. Like you said, life happens, right?
And that's tough as entrepreneurs because we're very independent,
Oh,
and so we may not have a lot of support. I think at times, sometimes, right? We're because we're doing these radical things. People
yeah.
they're questioning us, you
Right.
know.
Right.
So but it is essential if you can find even just one person that can support you and understand where you are. That can be enough,
I mean,
right?
that's what, even if you don't have anybody in your inner circle who's going through the same thing, that's why you hire a coach. That's why you hire somebody to help you through that,
To help
whether
you
it's
through
for
that.
Yeah.
fitness, nutrition, mindset, whatever it is. That's when I started changing. When I started reading books, when I started hiring a fitness coach little by little, and being kind to yourself is so
Yeah.
important. I think most entrepreneurs are really high achievers because we're so hard on ourselves.
Hmm.
We're our biggest critics
That's
and
true.
we're our biggest bullies.
It's
When
so true.
Yeah.
But here's the thing, right? Every coach needs a coach.
oh
Oh
yes.
yeah. Yeah.
Because here's the thing, with you in your journey as a coach, you're actually sharing, you're preventing your clients from going through the same pitfalls that you had
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
experience.
And they still,
You're
but it's
becoming the person that you needed when you were going on your journey, right? So being able to have someone that could, they can see those blinders for you, that understands you, right? So whether you have a circle of other business owners that you can, bounce ideas on or share those moments, be vulnerable and transparent with, or you have your coach, right? But again, it's very important to be able to know that when you're in those silos, never to experience those things alone. So you have to get to a point where you're able to either find a community, find a coach, or hire a therapist, or all of the above, to really be able to. I mean, because I'm super independent, trying to figure it out alone. But
Mhm.
what I realized, that didn't really serve me well. So now being able to have my circle, right, where I'm able to, say my business bestie that I call is like, hey, listen, this is what I'm experiencing today.
Yeah.
Because sometimes as business owners, we think that we have to know it all.
Right. No.
That we don't have those moments where some days we're trying to figure it out, like, okay, I thought this was the best direction. Like, what am I doing now?
Right. Right.
And being able to have those areas of being vulnerable and transparent,
Right.
and realizing that it doesn't take away from your expertise or who you are or what it is you do, but just being able to have others that actually understand that, and to kind of walk through that journey together.
Yeah. It's beautiful.
All right, guys, we're gonna be taking some live calls. Um, let's see who is available. think Rebecca would be wonderful to talk to right now.
Yeah, this is definitely a great in terms. I'm just loving the conversation because we get into that space so much. We're in our own little boxes or little segments of the world, right? But just being able to understand that a lot of the things that you
Hello,
experience.
hello.
Hello.
Hi, Rebecca. This is
Hi.
Domenica. I'm on another account, but
Oh, hi. Hi there. You're on another account. Okay.
I'm
Well,
on a
whoever.
I'm on another account. You're live on Mentorship Monday. Welcome.
Oh, mentorship. I know my favorite day of the week.
Ours too. Welcome, Rebecca.
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi.
So we are touching the subject of how entrepreneurs and business owners can double their revenue
Now hold
by.
hold on just a second because I can't hear you that well.
How about now? Is that
Oh,
better?
perfect.
Okay,
Yes.
perfect. So we're discussing the topic of how high achievers can double their revenue by connecting the mind, body, and business.
Mhm.
And I know you're all about mindset and going to the next level. So we really want to get your thoughts on that and see if you have any questions for us.
Well, my expertise are how to experience more contentment, more happiness, more inner peace along the journey. And so I understand what you're saying. And for everything else, meaning for me, marketing, PR, finances, I had somebody else to do all that because it's just not my thing.
100%. Yeah, we were just going over that because you can't do it all yourself, right? You can't do it all yourself to be happy.
So I have a question for all three of you, or there's three, correct?
There's three.
Okay, good. So each one, if you're inspired to share, what is your definition of success?
Oh, I love that. That's a really good question. Do you want to start it off?
I honestly I can't say it's something in my mind and soul. I would know that okay. I guess like you said a place of contentment, satisfaction. Uh, okay, I did what I was supposed to do. I did what I wanted to do, and that to me is success. Even a small, like for example, if I'm working on building a new habit and I do it, even if the outcome sucks, right? That's success to me because I did what I was supposed to do that I know long term would lead to the outcome I actually do want. So for me, it's having little successes every day. Um, Not so much the end goal necessarily, but I think it's relative to everybody as we're going to find out. But yeah, that's pretty much how I would define success is more just an internal knowing and feeling satisfied and content about what I did.
Okay.
Okay, okay. So that's a really I love that answer. Um, and so one of my favorite quotes is it's from Abraham. It is you cannot have a happy ending to an unhappy journey. So what you're describing is the journey and along the way. But I'm gonna ask you uh, not again, but so success is achievement or success is an energy.
An energy to me, it's an energy. It's not
Mm-hmm.
it's not an achievement necessarily because you know again, it's going to be different for everybody. It's going to look differently. But because I've had my successes that nobody even knew anything happened externally, but
Mm-hmm.
inside I had a complete shift in how I felt in my whole being. That to me, that's all I wanted.
That's the best success.
That's the best feeling in the world, right?
Hmm.
It had
I love that. I love that.
nothing to do, and that's what they always talk about. A lot of people that have made it to the top, they talk about that many times. How they it was in the journey, and when they got to that end, it was just like, man, no, the real satisfaction was how in the heck I got here and who I became in that process. You know,
Mm-hmm.
um, going through hell and back, basically, right? And then you're just like, wow, it was all worth it in the end. So yeah.
That's
I
beautiful.
love that. I love that. Okay, next answer.
You were talking about Abraham Hicks, right?
Yes.
I love
How
Abraham.
did you know that? Look at that. Look at that. Yes.
Abraham has helped me change my life. That was the last calling for me. was, we talked about my journey to awakening, and Abraham was the last book that I read recently before I shifted back into business, and oh, miracle worker for sure. Complete mind shift. But success, to me, success means being able to have it all, because I always say this, but I really think you can have everything you've ever wanted, and that doesn't necessarily have to be something monetary. I think that has to be, you can have the family that you've always dreamed of, the relationships you've always dreamed of, the health. You can be as healthy as you may want to manifest it. And you can have that business that you've always wanted, if that's the way that you want to go, your passion. You can make anything successful if you really love it. So I think success is about being able to have it all and creating the reality that you want, because at the end of the day, we are meant to enjoy life and live life to its fullest. You only have one time, so why not be the happiest version of yourself in the present moment?
Hmm. Love that too. And but let me share what my practice is. I don't have any wants or any desires other than what you use whatever term you want, God or the universe wants for me. Because what if what I want, and when I say I, what I am I talking about? The ego, the human, the person, I, or a universal. So whatever is, because if the universe doesn't want that for me, guess what? It ain't gonna happen.
Oh my
Uh,
God. And we try to force a circle and a square so many times, saying this is the way, this is the way. But in reality, what God has planned for us is so much better than we ever expected.
Follow your burning desire. That's your guide to, um at least that's what I found is, what do I know deep in my soul? What, and when I just, there's not anybody that can tell me different. I just know this is what I have to do. This is what I know I want, even if it goes against the grain, even if it's against, you know, family and friends. When I know, and there's like there's nothing that can take that away. That's how I know I'm on my path and my mission. And it's amazing when I stand up for that, even when others are talking down on it, the universe confirms I was right. Well, and not so much right, but I would that I'm correct in what I'm sensing about this part of my life I need to follow, basically,
Yeah.
right?
and so what you're talking about is just which isn't really not really taught, isn't taught,
Right.
is using your intuition, using your sixth sense and following that, and which requires a lot of trust.
Trust.
But we're not taught to follow our intuition and trust. But yeah, definitely trust. And you talk about a knowing. Yeah, that's a soul
Yeah.
knowing. Yes,
It's deeper. It's
exactly.
deeper than a belief. It's not even. It goes way beyond belief.
Yes, and you can't even explain it. Not
Yes, you
really.
can't
You don't have the
explain it.
words.
Yeah, you can't
Hmm.
explain it. So it's that that's when you know that's what I believe. That is what I believe. Though when I can sense that, that's my path, my mission to follow, and that's when you know you're on track with your
Hmm.
your 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 truest. You're gonna find your truest self and your best life that way.
Yeah,
You know.
Yeah.
So
I love that. But I don't use words best or better only because best and better is a judgment, and all labels actually subtract from contentment. So what I say is life is an experience without judgment. So this, and I get it,
beautiful.
but better, best. So best, I feel. No, I'm experiencing all of this without judgment,
I like that.
and open to new possibilities, open to all possibilities. Trust, surrender, trust, repeat.
And I think that's really key for me as far as having that spiritual alignment, because it's a guiding force for me where I notice when I'm in alignment with all that.
I can't hear you a little. Can you?
Are you able to hear me now?
Oh, now, perfect. Yes. Okay, keep
Okay.
going.
Okay, great. For me, what works in terms of having that spiritual alignment, being still to be able to hear in terms of what's on that path for me. And what I realize is that when I am in alignment with all of the choices that I make and the things that are around me, as much as the universe allows me to, everything
Mm,
happens more effortlessly.
oh,
Because whenever it's in a space where whenever I'm out of alignment, I realize that I face more challenges and more roadblocks and more barriers as far as that's concerned, because with that alignment it gives me more of a peace, a sense of peace,
Hmm.
and a sense of in terms of gratitude So when you talk about success, it's relative, right? If I'm able to respond to 5 emails today as opposed to the 2 that I struggle to me, that's success for that day. So
Right.
being able to have the overarching goal, but also looking at every little thing within my daily activities that really allows me to celebrate those small wins just as much as I celebrate those big wins. And so from that standpoint, what I've realized is that a sense of alignment, that spiritual alignment for me, that allows me to be still and knowing internally when something just doesn't feel right, when something just isn't aligned, and allows me to make
Right.
decisions in a way that works in that space, that kind of gives me that level of that joy, that contentment, that sense of accomplishment as far as that's concerned. And just knowing that in addition to that I'm able to have an impact, not just from a business perspective. I'm a huge mental health wellness advocate. And so just being able to know that I'm having an impact on the people around me, right? Not just from a business perspective, but from a social standpoint as well. So when I'm at my best, I'm able to be quote unquote successful by having an added value, a value added impact on those that are around me and the things that are most important to me.
Yeah.
So I would say
Nice.
alignment.
Very nice.
Love that. Love that. May I throw in my 2 cents on that, please?
Oh,
3
absolutely.
I'm going to
cents.
throw it in
3
anyway.
cents. 3 cents. Okay.
So you said when I'm out of alignment, I'm going to offer another perspective and say that you are never out of alignment. You are always connected. And I'm going to use myself as an example. When I feel, I call it a pee under the mattress. If you want to say not aligned, but a pee under a mattress, but uh, either I'm identifying with the person, the ego, the human, or I'm aligning, or else I'm identifying with presence, the awareness, the spirit, the soul. So I can feel which 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 identity which identity I'm leaning towards, because that person human is very fleeting, is discontented, is there's always something else, and not satisfied with the present moment. So I'm either vibrating an energy of satisfaction in every moment, or dissatisfaction in every moment. Which
I
one
love
is
that.
it?
I love that. And yeah, I mean that's our human malfunction is being human, is the ego, right? And our true
Yes.
self is our soul, and that's honestly it's God, it's the universe speaking to us. It's not just intuition, it's
Yeah.
what the creator put inside of us.
Yes.
Like you said, no judgment. I love that.
Yeah, no judgment. No judgment on anything.
Yeah.
In fact, judgment. I just finished. I published a book a little while ago, and it's called in May. It's called "Program for Unhappiness." I don't know if I shared this. "Program for Unhappiness: Exposing the Untold Truth." And in that book, I list 56 program behaviors that subtract or take away from contentment, peace, happiness. But again, it's taking away from that energy of contentment. And there's a lot of so question, do any of you on the panel worry? Have I
Yes.
asked that before?
No.
Worry as in anxiety.
Just worry. No worry about anything. Children, neighbors, loved ones, worry.
I think for me, I would say when I'm in that, being an overthinker, when I'm in that space in terms of wanting to control the outcome, as far as from being a spiritual person, realizing that for me, when I feel that I worry, that means I don't trust that God will
Yes,
handle the
yes,
outcome
yes, yes,
for
yes.
me. So I'm mindful of when I have those anxieties in terms of wanting to control the outcome in a
Mhm.
sense. So just being very mindful in those moments, because once you get to it, for me, into that worrying space, now I start having these intrusive thoughts in terms of what might happen, what could happen, but nothing. But then bringing myself back to stay rooted in the facts. Okay, where are we? What has actually transpired?
Right.
What is my biggest concern? What am I holding on to? What's causing me to feel this space, whether you call it worry or anxiety, of whatever that may be, and just being mindful of it from a spiritual standpoint. That in those moments, like, okay, am I trying to play God right now?
Right.
Yeah. I think it's normal to feel worry at times, certain times, and
Well,
recognize
no,
it. Right.
let me stop you, because it's not normal. It's a program. You didn't very respectfully, you didn't pop out of the womb knowing how to worry.
No, that's right,
So,
right. But it's normal in the sense of how we're living these days. So you recognize it when it happens, and then you work on deprogramming yourself out of it. Because that's what I was going to say. You
mm,
recognize it's happening, right? Because it has been normal in our life, even if it isn't supposed to be normal. And you, what the in that moment is the idea is to respect that okay, I'm feeling worried, okay, cool, but why am I right? And like you said, you recenter yourself, or you rethink, okay, let's put this in perspective, a bigger perspective. And then a lot of times, for me at least, the worry goes away, because it's like I didn't have that. I have that monkey brain going on.
But you're still worrying.
mm,
It's still a level of worry
Right,
nonetheless.
right, right, right. So yeah, no, of course it definitely is not a normal, but it is what we experience as normal, and trying to work ourselves out of that normalcy to what we're supposed to really be,
But as a normal relative, at what point, if we weren't born to worry, at what point do we realize that we never worried?
Yeah.
You know,
Right. But let's
because
think about when we were kids,
I was going
right?
to say, as a child,
As a
you know,
child.
when can you think of a time when you didn't worry? You know, if you were in school and your parent was late picking you up, did you worry something happened to them?
That's true.
Or if you were, if it's your birthday, there's a gift that you wanted, or you wanted a friend to attend your birthday party. Do you worry if they'll say yes or no? So at what point in our lifetime, even though if we weren't born to worry, right? If it's something that we adopted along the way, but can we look at as human beings from a standpoint and think, when did I not worry?
So I would go back because I love Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he talks about how brain develops over years.
hmm
So under the year of 9 is when before you became programmed, and it's easily any fears, behaviors are easily to deprogram before the age of 9. And looking back at our toddler years, whenever we're climbing, we're touching, we're grabbing everything, we don't know fears, we don't know dangers, we're not worried.
Thank
We
you.
want to walk, we want to run, we want to touch
hmm
everything. We don't know if, the socket is going to electrocute us, because that's not processing our. We want to explore. We were here to explore. We were here to be adventurous. We were here to be fun and easygoing and trusting that everything's going to be okay, because we had our parents, or we had initially God. um, but it's not until our parents start making us worry. Don't touch that, you're going to fall, you're going to
That's right.
and then you go to school, and the kids start talking about how their parent hasn't picked us up, and that's when the worry happens. But
Well, let me just sum up with my whole worry speech. 'Cause there's three parts to it. So number one, it is a program. It's a learned behavior, and it's nobody's fault that they worry. They learned how to worry. But the good news is you can unlearn what you learned. The second thing is you can't worry and trust at the same
no, you
time.
cannot. No, you cannot.
And if you're conscious and you are self-aware, choose one. And the third thing is, especially people that are massive worriers, it becomes an addiction.
Oh,
It
yes.
it 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 be an addiction to worrying. And there's a lot of different addictions that no one talks about. Addiction to worrying, and the addiction to needing to be right, an
Right.
addiction to disappointment, all of it. So yeah. And then if I snap my finger and said, I'll take all your worry away, well, the people that are addicted to worrying, now what are they going to do with all their free time?
Right. And it's a habitual thought. So you start with one worry, and then it escalates, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Where you're
That's
for
right.
for every thought that you're worrying, you're creating more worry and more worry. And going back on that, I think to go back to Abraham Hicks. So they have a saying where it's like you're only one emotion away, or you're 99% there from getting what you want. You just have to be in alignment, and you're already
Mm.
99% there. So why worry about the outcome if it's just one decision, one thought away?
And all worry and is also future behavior. So another program is living in the future or living in the past. I don't know if you wanted to add more time, but I'm good either way. But
We're
I
actually
really
cutting off in 5 minutes, so
Oh,
you're
okay.
our last caller.
Well, what a pleasure, and I thank you so much for calling. But let me throw this last thing out. One of the things that I do with my thoughts, those worrisome, those thoughts out there, because I have them too. But I observe and I witness them as opposed to identifying. They're identifying with them. They're not my thoughts. They're just thoughts, generic thoughts. I'm not owning any of my thoughts or my stories. So yeah, witness and observe. And now I'm going to leave you with that. And happiness, contentment are all practice skills.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so
Beautiful.
much,
Thank you,
Rebecca.
Rebecca. That's great.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Pleasure, pleasure. Thank you so much.
Have a wonderful evening.
I will. You too. Thank you.
Any thoughts? I think that was honestly wonderful, and that concludes back to the mindset part of things, right? Because it really is all about having the right mindset to be able to run the business that you want, to be able to have the life that you want. Essentially, you're the creator of your reality, and God, the universe, whatever you believe in, wants you to experience the holiness that exists.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. She made a good point. It's detaching yourself from the thoughts, and that's a meditative practice. I think we're all pretty used to doing. But it's so easy to get lost in those thoughts that you said, the sea, the ocean, right, of worry thoughts, or future, whatever you want to call it. And being mindful of that you're in it, and then resetting yourself to detach yourself from that sea, from that cycle of thoughts. That's been really, you know instrumental for me in many ways, because like you say, you get that monkey brain going on, you got that amygdala firing, and it's not going to make clear choices and decisions for you. So you have to be able to recognize that's what's happening here, and then step outside to use the prefrontal cortex, right, the analytical, the logical side of the brain, and part of the brain, and now you can see things more clearly once you do that. So
I think it's really important to be able to know who you are and what drives you, because you can have all of these different strategies that you put in place, but who are you? When do you have those moments of when are you triggered? When do you have those moments where you're having those self-doubt? When do you have those moments where, because once you have a clear understanding of who you are, then you're better able to identify various little triggers or various little things that kind of seep into your mind or into your daily activities as far as that's concerned, right? So I know that I'm such an empath. If I get certain calls, that I'm holding on to wanting to know that everyone's okay.
yeah.
So knowing that, okay, there's a moment as I'm starting my day, I'm very mindful of the energies that I allow to transfer towards me, right? So just being able to be having a sound sense of who you are, what helps you to drive, and what's important to
Yeah.
you,
Smart.
and knowing that the level of alignment, and it's not something that happened overnight, but it's kind of realizing when I respond a certain way, why am I responding this way? And getting to the source, like you were mentioning earlier, Leo, in terms of when you're talking to your clients, in terms of when you eat certain things, if you're lethargic today, it's not what you ate today. It's probably something you ate a few days ago.
Yeah.
But knowing, right, being able to trace it back to the source and being very intentional about that. So it's the same thing with our minds, same thing with our bodies
Yeah.
and our spirit as
Yeah.
far as that's concerned.
Yeah.
And then it translates into being a well versed, well grounded, well rounded business person as far as that's concerned. As far as, just my little 30 cents.
Love that.
That's good. Love that.
Love that. Well, I just want to leave everybody in the audience a question. What can you do today to become 1% better? All right, that's
All
a
right.
wrap.
Beautiful.
High five.
Thank you guys. Let me go try to
Oof.
shut this off.
Good timing. Cause I gotta get going. I had still got work to do tonight.
Is that right?
Well, I drive. So I'm doing part. This is part of what we're talking about, but yeah, part-time drive for a black car service. So
Mm.
I have pick some people up at the airport. So
Mm. It's about, it's one of those things.
part-time, be bringing extra cash flow.
But that's the thing.
So
You have to be able to diversify,
yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. That's
And being able to have to get to a space of sustainability.
Right.
Do what you need to do.
Yeah, and
Right?
I'm working on getting to that place, right? But it's a process, as we
It's a process.
always.
It's a
Yeah.
process. Up,
Yeah.
down. Just
No.
being. You have to be flexible. It's not
Yeah.
for the faint at heart.
But she that was good. That was true about the programs. That's something I kind of forgot about. I remember reading about that a while ago. Yeah, so many things.